You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Halloween special.
Spooky season's upon us.
So stupid. Hi, welcome back to the Captain John Doe podcast. I'm Mindy.
And I am Kevin.
And we do actually have a special Halloween spooktacular for you guys today.
Fall is in the air, and that only means one thing. Pumpkin spice lattes.
Do you drink those?
Never.
Then why did you say that?
Because that's the first thing that came to mind when I think of Halloween is Starbucks is selling pumpkin spice lattes again.
I have never had one. I've never tried it, but I did just buy a couple for my friend. She just had a baby and I visited her, and she's a flight attendant. She wrote us in a couple stories, by the way, but I just delivered her some pumpkin spice Starbucks drinks, and they looked pretty good.
Well, what are you going to be for Halloween?
I don't know that we're doing anything for Halloween. Your parents are going to be visiting Vegas that week, so I don't really know that we're doing anything.
So we're going to do a Vegas Halloween, right?
Yeah, your parents are going to be here.
Just consists of going to like some shows, some dinners, right? I think that's how we want to spend it, right?
Yeah, nothing to do with Halloween. Everything to do with just hanging out in Vegas. Before we get super into it, we'll tell you guys that Kevin has been sick for several weeks.
Oh, we're going to bring that up?
Yeah, because you're going to cough this entire episode, so you might as well just get it out there.
Yeah, there's been something going on with me. It's a combination of pneumonia or some other thing, but we're on the mend, I think. My students listening, they know it's been a pain in the butt. Because it's
been a pain in the butt for me.
I've been not sleeping well. Like I feel physically okay, but I'm just coughing.
Yeah, no, you've got some chest problems. I do feel very bad for you. I hate being sick that long, and you've had it for a while. So if Kevin has to take a little coffee break, that's what's happening. But
sorry.
Speaking of you just hit a major flying milestone.
I did. I crossed the 1,000-hour mark.
That's huge. That is so huge. I remember when I crossed my 1,000 hours, it just makes you feel like you're a real pilot all of a sudden, because telling people you have over 1,000 hours is like, dang, like I've got something.
Something's there, right? It is crazy to think about, because I know we've shared this before, but like we left Florida this year in February.
You were an air traffic controller.
I was an air traffic controller. Like my pay stub has ATC on it this year. And I had 380 hours, something like that, before I got hired as an instructor. And I'm over 1,000 hours. The other thing I think is fun is the airplane I'm flying is the Cirrus. And I fly the 20, the 22, and the 22T. I just looked. I have over 600 hours in the Cirrus now.
So you have more Cirrus time than Cessna time now.
I have more Cirrus time than Mojo time and it is going to continue to increase because I still got a long ways to go. And it's just wild how much Cirrus time I have.
That's really cool. I mean, I love that you're flying the Cirrus. I think that's an awesome airplane to fly and get your time in. Something different than the 182, some low wing action, some Fiki, turbo. It's just nice to fly something really high performance like that.
Don't forget, I do get about 2 to 3 hours of Skyhawk a week.
You dabble in the Skyhawk.
I have one full-time student. He's awesome.
And the Skyhawk.
And the Skyhawk.
Yeah,
one full-time. Sorry, there it is. One full-time Skyhawk student. So I get my fix.
Okay, yeah. So what's been really fun is that lately a lot of you guys, listeners and people that we know from social media, have been booking you to come fly with you here in Las Vegas, like for realsies.
For realsies. It's been awesome. Like this week alone, I had like 4 people that know us from social media coming out to fly and doing the Grand Canyon tour, doing the Hoover Dam, and getting some stick time in the Skyhawk and the Cirrus, doing the whole shebang. And like, that's really cool to actually see this like come to real life and outside of the mic, outside of Instagram or YouTube, you know?
Right. I think it's very unique and really fun because this is such a small chapter in your career where you can actually interact with with people from social media and the podcast and listeners and fans, and for them to be able to book you and fly with you. This is not going to happen forever, right?
No.
This is such a short time. And the fact that people are doing it and taking advantage of that and coming to meet you and see you and fly with you, I think that is the coolest thing.
It is. Open invitation. I will give you the best possible time I can. We're going to see the Grand Canyon. We're going to see the Hoover Dam. We're going to fly brand new equipment, which is, I think, really the big draw to my flight school. Obviously, you guys want to come see me, but let's be fair. Like, the reason people come to All In is because of the equipment we have. Like, so if you're ever out here for a meeting, a conference, or anything, book me. Message me.
How would they do that?
Just message me on Instagram or something, and then I'll send you the phone number to our booking department, because you'd have to go through our dispatch, or however you want to say it. So just send me a message, send it on the Captain John Doe, send it on my personal one. Reach out to Mindy. I know you guys all follow Mindy. If you want to fly, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, and we have been. That's been really cool. I got to do some fun flying recently with one of my friends, Annie, friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod.
Pilot Annie, if you guys know her on Instagram. Speaking of social media and people, me and Annie met on social media just maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We became fast friends. Now we're like sisters, love her to death. Well, she decided to go on this crazy endeavor of doing stole drag races, which, if you don't know what stole drag is, it's where they compete against each other, one-on-one racing in aircraft. They take off, fly straight line, land, fully stop, turn around, fly the opposite way, land, full stop. And that's your like race pattern, you could say, and you're racing one-on-one against another aircraft. It's a pretty crazy thing to watch. I've watched it for several years now. Watched it for several years now, and she went and did it in this brand new Husky. And then after that, which she did that at High Sierra, she came to Las Vegas and stayed with me for a little while, and we got to go flying in this brand new Husky, and that was so fun. Actually, me and you both got to go. She took you up too.
I did get to go, but this is about you, not me.
Well, we had such fun times because I have been wanting to do some off-airport dry lake bed adventuring since we've been in Nevada, but I have never done it before. So Annie, coming fresh from High Sierra, which is Dead Cow Lake, dry lake bed, also in Nevada, had experience with it. So I was like, great.
Very recent experience.
Yeah, let's take the Husky. And just outside of Vegas, it's literally a 15-minute flight south of where we are in Henderson to get to several dry lake bed options. And it was so easy peasy. She's an amazing pilot, so obviously she made it look incredibly easy. But I don't know why I thought there'd be more to it, but it's not. And it was very, very hard, compact ground. And now I'm pretty confident we could take our airplane in there.
Ooh.
Would you want to do that?
100%, because I had the same experience. There was no question that we can't take Mojo in there. I mean, obviously the Husky had 30-inch tires? I don't remember, but
31s, I think.
It didn't matter. Like I could take the Cirrus in there. I mean, after experience.
Well, you wouldn't do that.
No, I don't own a Cirrus.
Well, why I tell people not to do off-airport stuff in Cirruses is because the wheel fairings sit so low to the ground that the amount of tire showing is just so small that if there's any little bit of hole or divot, you're going to crack your wheel fairing, and it's not going to be fun, especially if you're in a dry lake bed. Who's going to come help you?
Yeah, not advocating for it.
Yeah, let's not.
I was just saying that the dry lake bed out here is so,
the only
improved.
thing I noticed that we had to watch out for was just like debris. So people go out in these dry lake beds on four-wheelers, ATVs, motorcycles, dirt bikes, trailers, and just go have a good old time out there. They camp, they do donuts, they race. There's a bunch happening out there. Yeah. So you just have to watch out for like deep tire marks, and then also debris. Like I saw a lot of like blasted old tires and stuff laying around. So you just have to do kind of a low pass, check things out, make sure there's no debris, and then come in and land. But I feel confident to do it in Mojo. So hopefully on a future episode, we can give you guys an update on that.
I look forward to that.
Right? I think that'd be fun. I kind of want to camp out there one night.
Oh.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be.
Especially now when it's cooled off. So maybe you guys have some fun off-airport stories for us. If you do, head to CaptainJohnDoe.com. It's all anonymous. You can send your name if you want, but you don't have to. We don't even have your email address. You can just send it in totally anonymously. Thank you, everyone who has been submitting. We've had some incredible submissions lately. I mean, that husband and wife story we told recently is probably going to be my favorite submission to date.
The best one until you guys start topping it. Like, you saw what got us excited. I think it got the listeners excited. Like, opposite stories. Like, give us the same story, two different perspectives. How freaking cool.
Genius. So that was really great. Thank you guys who submitted that. Follow us on social media. We post a lot of clips. So if you don't have time to listen to the whole episode or just want to see what the episode's about before you tune in, head over to Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, anywhere. Captain John Doe Podcast. We post a ton of clips of what we're talking about on there for you guys to follow along. Be sure to subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode. And if you can leave a review and a rating, that is so helpful to us. So thank you guys all for tuning in, as always. But back to the heart of the episode, Halloween. Do you have a good story in order?
All right.
You going first?
I'll go first. I was surfing the web trying to see what we had because we did not get this out to you guys to have us submit some, UFO spooky stories yet. I'm sure they're going to come in now. But
yeah, send them anyway. We'll take spooky stories any time of year.
Anytime. But anyways, I found this actually on the New York Post. It is Captain or Major Bodenheimer of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. He shared a story on his channel recently, and then the Times the Post did a little article. So I'm going to read that in honor of Halloween, because us being out in Vegas, we know what is right in our backyard. The aliens.
Area 51.
So the whole thought about this little episode is just talking about UFOs, and might share some thoughts after.
Well, for yours, mine is very weird and strange after yours, yes. And it's not about aliens.
All right.
I don't think.
So, a former U.S. combat fighter claims a UFO encounter he had while zipping around in the sky at 30,000 feet was one of the wildest experiences he had in his seasoned military career. Major Bodenheimer, a former ace of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds and an F-15 combat fighter, recounted on his YouTube channel earlier this month on how he came close to almost colliding with the UFO shaped like a perfect rectangle while on a training mission in southern Wyoming.
What? A rectangle? I've never heard that description of a UFO yet.
Bodenheimer alleged that he was flying during the day at about 30,000 feet in the sky at a speed of 400 knots when a bright object caught his attention off in the distance. Out of nowhere, he said. However, Bodenheimer realized that the object was on a collision course with his aircraft. I put my hand on the control stick. I'm about to turn off the autopilot, and then I realized we weren't going to hit, and all of a sudden it came more into view. It was a rectangular shape, he said. This was like essentially a perfect rectangle. So weird. Like, what? He claims the object appeared to be 30 to 40 feet high with bright white along the outside edges and looked to be glowing in a clear center. I know it sounds like I'm talking about a delicious pastry, but this was the wildest experience I ever had.
Wait a second. I would have never described what you just said as a pastry. What is he?
I don't know. He said it's a bright white rectangle.
Bright white rectangle with a glowy inside is a pastry.
I can think of like a key lime pie that's squared off a little bit, but it's not a pastry.
I was not going pastry. Continue.
All right. Bodenheimer, for a moment, theorized that the object could be a weather balloon, but he claimed that it didn't look anything like he'd ever seen in the sky before. There's no wings on this thing, no exhaust. The edges were so bright they were pulsing. Aerodynamically, this thing shouldn't be going close to 400 knots. For a rectangle to be flying through the air was a wild experience. He said that he wasn't picking up any signal on his radar and wasn't experiencing any radio interference as it kept pace with his jet at 400 knots just a short distance away. It really was defying any type of aeronautical laws that I've learned. The suspected UFO then zooms off. Bodenheimer said he called into air traffic control to report the encounter. After telling the controller what happened, he said there was a dead silence before they told the fighter pilot they'd have other aircraft to be on the lookout for the object. I never heard anything after it. However, he did do some searching of his own, and he said there was a report filed that day on an anomalous object spotted in the area. Bonheimer said for years he never wanted to discuss his 2 run-ins with UFOs after worrying about the stigma around other pilots who had shared their encounters. However, the pilot turned YouTuber said since the stigma has dissipated, he's more comfortable opening up his experience with more reports of military pilots encountering UFO objects like this in the sky over the last 2 decades.
Was this during the daytime?
Yeah, daytime.
Wow, that's interesting. So what do you think?
What I know is that if there's an aircraft out there that's capable of knowing who else is around them, would be an F-15. So when he says that there's nothing on his radar, that's where it is a little bit confusing, because those aircraft are equipped with, the best equipment we have in our Air Force. So for him not to see it on the radar is where you get a little bit of a icky feeling. And then also he's at 30,000 feet.
And he said it was like 30 to 40 feet high. That's a huge object.
Yeah. So like the obvious answer is a weather balloon, like what happened last year, if we remember.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
But weather balloons have what? A radar return. Mm-hmm. Like specifically, they even have ADS-B on them.
Yeah, unless it just went rogue or maybe the equipment failed or something. There's reasons why it might not.
But they would get a radar return on an F-15.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that there's some crazy stuff out there. Why not?
Remember, like growing up, everyone would always talk about aliens and demand that the government give information they have, and then somewhat recently, the government's like, here's everything we got, and pretty much said aliens are real, and no one cared.
Nobody cared.
There was not like riots or like anything crazy of everyone being like, oh my gosh. Everyone's just like, yeah, we know. Okay.
Nobody cares.
Just like another day.
If we actually saw an alien ship come down, do you think that would change people's mind, or just these reports?
I don't think people are not believing that there's aliens.
But would there actually be that uprising?
Yeah, I think people would be pretty
because like
scared.
why would the government hide all this stuff in the first place? Like you're right, they released all this stuff and nobody cared. So what was the concern of hiding it in the first place?
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously there's more to the story. And what's that guy's name that always talks about aliens in Area 51 and all that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll remember it later. But yeah, speaking of Area 51, as some of you guys know, I train the Air Force drone pilot cadets out of Creech Air Force Base. And for those familiar with Las Vegas, Creech is a short hop from Area 51. So I'll go over to the base every now and again and pick the guys up, and we'll go fly and we'll go get training in. And of course, me being me, I'm going to ask as many questions as I can. These are 23, 24-year-old guys that are read in that are not supposed to tell me anything. I'm a very likable, convincing guy.
Inquisitive.
And I don't ever put them in a position that will get them in trouble, but I ask simple questions like, do you see Area 51 when you're training? Do you see anything else out there?
And what do they say?
And they tell me point blank, and I know they're being honest, is that they are not allowed to point the camera at the base. If they point the camera at Area 51, they will be removed from duty imminently. I then asked...
I feel like there's nothing you could probably even see from the air anyway. It's all got to all be covered up because of satellites and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, where they practice flying the drones is right there. Mm-hmm. Like there's a little mountain that blocks view from like when I'm doing pattern work. I can't see over the mountain. If I was a little bit higher and just a smidge further to the north, you could see everything. But they're instructed verbatim to never point the camera at the base.
I want to know.
I know. And then I asked this other question, like, all right, you have an emergency out there while you're out training. Can you land your craft at Area 51? And they said, absolutely not. And I said, so your instruction is to crash the drone into the desert and not land it on a runway? And they said, yes, sir.
Those are huge, big, expensive drones.
Yes. And then a quick follow up there. I also fly with an F-35 guy out of Nellis. Same questions, obviously. And this guy was awesome. He's a trainer of the 35s. And I said, you're out there in the 35. You had an engine failure and you happen to be within gliding range of Area 51. What do you do? And he said, I will land at Area 51. I will be met with armed guards and put in handcuffs until they determine what to do. And I was like, really? He's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's not shocking. You've always heard about Area 51 since you were little.
This is an F-35 guy who's telling me that he will be, some sort of punishment at first. Obviously, they're not going to hopefully get him that much in trouble if he had an engine failure over Area 51. But so the question is what are we hiding out there? I know what my answer is.
What's your answer?
We're just hiding our most advanced aeronautical equipment.
I think so too. I think that's definitely part of it.
I think it's that simple.
There might be other stuff too, but I think that's definitely a big part of it. I personally tried to find out what's in Area 51 as well. I applied to Janet Airlines. Did you know I was going to say that?
No, I just spit up my water.
Why is that funny?
Just the way you said that. I applied to Janet Airlines to try to get my little self in there.
I did.
And what did they say?
They said, hell no.
They're like, you got a podcast and an Instagram? Nah.
They're like, no, yeah, you were way too public.
We can't control this one.
Yeah. Janet Airlines, if you're not familiar, is a government airline, I guess you could say, that flies out of Las Vegas, where we live, to and from Area 51 to transport employees back and forth.
Every day.
So they had a FO position. The requirements on it were so silly. And when I was talking to a friend about it, that I applied and immediately got rejected. They're like, they only put it out there because they're the government. They have to put an open position out there. But they're hiring ex-military guys. Like they have someone specific that they're hiring, and they make the open bid, the requirements fit that exact person. That way they're the only person that fits the bid, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because what they were looking for example, was they wanted you to already have your type in a Boeing. I think it was a 7.3, right?
It's 7.3s.
737s. They want you to have your type rating already. They want you to already live in Las Vegas, okay? They want you to be badged at Las Vegas airport, already have your badge for LAS, which is like, okay, that's really specific. They want you to already have a top secret clearance with the government. It's like, okay, like who's checking all these boxes?
They want you to already have encountered an alien.
So I literally checked 0 boxes. I applied anyway. You guys shoot your shot. But I was just having fantasies about getting this job, coming home to you, and you saying, tell me everything you know about Area 51. And I'd be like, sorry, it's top secret.
Divorce.
Top secret.
Gosh,
like,
it would drive me insane if you did that.
I know. That's the premise of me applying to this job.
Awesome.
I don't even care about the job.
You just want to get the job to make me go crazy.
Yes, I would personally want to know what's happening at Area 51, and that would satisfy it. And then it would be extra satisfying that you would, like, literally you would go insane because you would ask me questions. And do you think I would even tell you?
No, I know you wouldn't tell me. Like, you would be perfect for this job. I know you wouldn't tell me, which is...
Oh, I would be the perfect, like, secret spy, FBI agent person. I love holding on to secrets.
Love. So with the Janet, real quick, when I'm out in the practice area over at North Vegas, I get to hear them all the time and what they do. So they'll come out of this wild blue yonder in the restricted area. They'll call up Nellis because they're VFR. And Nellis will give them a code, clear them in, go to Vegas.
7.3 VFR.
Flying in 7.3. Same thing. When they leave Vegas, they go to Nellis. Nellis gets them into the restricted area, and then they go dark. It's crazy. I'll literally be, flying over Nellis and see nothing on my ADSB or anything. And then all of a sudden, I hear Janet check in. Bing. They turn on their equipment.
How's that so crazy that this rectangle didn't show up on a radar, Kevin?
Well, in my Cirrus, we don't have radar. The F-15 has radar. Obviously, you would pick the 737 up on radar. But that's just really cool.
Okay, we got to get into our next story because this is the true Halloween story.
Spooky.
It is something I've come across a couple of times, and there's tons of news stories about this, but I chose to read because I want this to be as factual as possible. I'm not going to glam it up. It's going to be factual because this is by the University of Virginia School of Medicine.
Okay.
Is that VCOM? Is that where my sister went to school? I don't know.
You're asking me a question I could never answer.
Okay, anyway, so this was written and explored by a doctor. I'm going to read the abstract. So this is an actual case report. Okay, so I'm going to read the abstract first. That way you get the premise. And then I'm going to read, I don't know, a lot of it. That way you guys can hear and make a decision for yourself. It's very, very interesting. So here's the abstract. This is by Jim B. Tucker, an MD.
Jim Beam.
Jim B. Numerous cases of young children who report memories of previous lives have been studied over the last 50 years. Though such cases are more easily found in cultures that have a general belief in reincarnation, they occur in the West as well. This article describes the case of James Leininger, an American child who at age 2 began having intense nightmares of an airplane crash. He then described being an American pilot who was killed when his airplane was shot down by the Japanese. He gave details that included the name of an American aircraft carrier, the first and last name of a friend who was on the ship with him, and a location and other specifics about the fatal crash. His parents eventually discovered a close correspondence between James' statements and the death of a World War II pilot named James Hudson. Documentation of James' statements that was made before Hudson was identified includes a television interview with his parents that never aired, but the author has been able to review.
I get a little goosebumps there.
I know.
Oh, keep going. Keep going.
This is a really good story. It's going to be long.
Creepy.
So you're just going to buckle in, but this is what podcasts are for, right? First of all, what do you think about reincarnation?
Pass.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a religious question, so I guess that's difficult to make a decision on otherwise. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Yep. Is this where I want to start? Yeah. Cases of young children who report memories of previous lives have been systematically studied for the last 50 years. Though individual cases were investigated earlier, it was Stevenson who began the work in earnest with a trip to India in 1961. He spent the bulk of the next 40 years studying the cases which he referred to as cases of the reincarnation type, CORT. In many of them, the details the children gave were found to match the life of one particular deceased individual, whom Stevenson called the previous personality. James Leininger is the son of Bruce and Andrea Leininger, a couple in Louisiana in the United States. Beginning at the age of 2, he made statements and demonstrated behaviors that suggested he remembered the life of an American pilot killed during World War II, a young man who has now been identified as one James N. Hudson Jr. The case has garnered significant attention as the Leiningers told their story in several TV interviews and eventually wrote a book about their experiences. I also included a chapter on the case in a recent book. This report includes a more thorough review of the documentation of James' statements and behaviors that were made before the pilot Hudson was identified, which is critical in assessing the evidence of a past life connection that the case provides. James was born on April 10th, 1998. As related by his parents, the first noticeable incident in the case occurred in February 2000 when he was 22 months old, so almost 2 years old. His father took him to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum outside of Dallas as they were living in Texas at the time. James was fascinated by the airplanes, in particular by the World War II exhibit. When they left after 3 hours, James had some toy airplanes, as well as a video called It's Kind of Magic about the Blue Angels, the Navy's flight demo team. James loved the video and he watched it repeatedly for weeks. The trip and the video started or uncovered his love for airplanes. This passion may have led to some of the knowledge of airplanes and flying that James often surprised his parents by voicing. The video, however, was clearly not the source of James' information about World War II, since the Blue Angels group was founded in 1946 after the war ended. James and his father made a second trip to the museum later that spring, on Memorial Day weekend. James was again excited throughout his time there, though he grew quiet in the hangar that housed the World War II aircraft. He stood there staring and pointing at the airplanes, as if in awe. Within 2 months of the first trip, James developed a habit of saying, "Airplane crash on fire," and slamming his toy planes nose first onto the family's coffee table. He repeated this behavior over and over, producing dozens of scratches and dents on their table. James's father traveled a lot, and when James and his mother would see him off at the airport, James would often say, "Daddy, airplane crash on fire." Around this time, James began having nightmares. His behavior during them seems to have involved only screams at first, but then included words as well. "Airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out." James would shout this over and over while thrashing about and kicking his legs up in the air. After a few months of this, he had had several conversations with his parents about his dreams, usually as he was preparing to go to sleep. He indicated that they were memories of events in the past. He said that his airplane had crashed on fire and it had been shot by the Japanese. 2 weeks after those statements, James said that his airplane, a Corsair, which was a fighter plane developed during World War II, and he talked about flying a Corsair several times. On August 27, 2000, James was 28 months old. He told his parents he had flown his airplane off a boat. When his parents asked him the name of the boat, he said the Natoma. After that conversation, his father searched online for the word and eventually discovered the description of the USS Natoma Bay, an escort carrier stationed in the Pacific during World War II. James' parents asked him a number of times for the name of the little man in his dreams. He always responded with "me" or "James." A few weeks after James gave the word Natoma, his parents asked him if he could remember anyone else who was with the little man. James responded with the name Jack Larson. One day when James was just over 2.5, his father was looking through a book he was planning to give his own father for Christmas called The Battle for Iwo Jima, 1945. His father reports that James pointed to a picture showing an aerial view of the base of the island where Mount Suribachi, a dormant volcano, sits, and said, "That's where my airplane was shot down." His father said, "What?" And James responded, "My airplane got shot down there, Daddy." A week after that, James' father talked to a veteran from Natoma Bay who remembered a pilot named Jack Larson. He said Larson flew off one day and never returned, so no one knew what happened to him. With the ongoing nightmares, James' parents eventually contacted Carol Bowman, who had written a book about children's past life memories. They began a lengthy correspondence. Following Bowman's advice, James' mother started acknowledging to him that the events he was describing did happen to him, while emphasizing that they were in the past and now he's safe. The nightmares grew less violent and less frequent. James' parents said that when he became old enough to draw, he drew hundreds of battle scenes involving airplanes. He signed them with James 3, like the number 3. When his parents asked him about this, he said the 3 referred not to his age, but him being the third James. And he continued to sign pictures that way even after he turned 4. James may have thought himself as the third James because James Hudson was the pilot, James Jr. In June of 2002, James' parents were interviewed by ABC for a segment that was to be part of a program called Strange Mysteries. Program never aired, but since I was also interviewed for it, they sent me a copy of the segment. At the time of the interview, Hudson had not been identified. Table 1, which is an attachment in this document, lists the items that were included in the report and their comparison to Hudson's experiences. They were all correct, or at least partially correct for Hudson. Following the interview, James' father corresponded with an ABC producer about the name Jack Larson. She had a contact at the Center for Naval History who found a John M. Larson. Though it was ultimately determined that this man was not the Jack Larson on Natoma Bay, the correspondence between James' father and the producer was useful as documentation as he was searching for a time for a man with that name. 2 months later, James' father wrote a letter to a veteran that told him that a Jack Larson had served on Natoma Bay. A month after that, James' father attended his first Natoma Bay reunion and learned that Jack Larson from Natoma Bay had survived the war. Although he was not at the reunion, he was still alive, and James' father soon visited him. He also learned that there was only one pilot from the ship that was lost during the Battle of Iwo Jima, a 21-year-old from Pennsylvania named James M. Hudson Jr. After the reunion, James' father turned his focus to Hudson, as documented by a posting he made on a website looking for information. He learned that Hudson did not die in Iwo Jima. Instead, as the battle continued on after the initial assault, he was one of 8 pilots from the ship who took part in a strike against transport vessels in a harbor bay near Chichijima, as the Japanese were preparing a buildup of troop replacements and supplies. His plane appeared to have crashed exactly as James had described, detailed in Table 1. The aircraft action report for the day that Hudson's plane was shot down includes a chart of the paths each pilot took. Jack Larson, the one named James gave, is known as the pilot of the plane next to Hudson's, as Hudson was the only pilot from Natoma Bay that was killed during the Iwo Jima operation, and the details closely match James' statements. His parents concluded that he was the man whose life James had recalled. There is so much more. But then it goes into a table of all the things that the little boy said, and then proves how that they were all factual via documentation of World War II.
I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm so confused for everything. Like, you're telling me this 2-year-old boy can even say these words? Because, like, as you're telling me the story, I'm looking up, like, the Natoma Bay and Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Like, I don't even understand how a 2-year-old boy can even say that. And then you're telling me James Hudson is the only person that went down, and he's calling himself James Hudson.
Yep, and saying that he died in an airplane crash. It goes on to explain more about the crash and how the picture that he pointed out in his dad's book was exactly where that airplane was lost and crashed.
Ugh.
And talks about, I think it actually went down in the ocean, and he had described that too, how he couldn't get out because it was in the ocean.
Oh.
And then he just said,
You know, I don't like this stuff.
I know. And he had even said, Jack Larson, like, he said that name. That's what turned them on to it. That was his wingman. Like, that was the actual James's wingman. Like, and it's all documented World War II history information.
Well, we need to get James on the podcast because he's probably a little older now.
Yeah, I had seen.
I'd like to know what he's doing now.
Well, I had seen towards the end that they had tried or did go see him, and he was older now, and just was like, kind of like, meh about it. Like, oh yeah, like that was a thing that I did when I was little. Like, doesn't seem connected to it anymore. Seems like it was like when he was a baby.
Oh.
Isn't that so weird? Oh. What would you do if you had a kid and they were doing that and saying, like, my airplane crashed, my airplane's on fire?
Well, what do you think? You would think that your kid is not okay. And then obviously these parents, like, did a ton of research and networking because it was so in depth. I mean, it had to have been. Like, that's what
How would you not go down that path?
They had to go down this rabbit hole to the point where he's going to Natoma Bay reunions.
Yeah, and he even talked about, the little boy talked about Corsairs and how he would get flat.
How do you know what a Corsair is?
And how he would get flat tires in them all the time. And then it's documented that an Air Force historian said that, yeah, they did get them a lot because the Corsairs bounced when they landed, leading to flat tires often.
What the heck? What are you even telling me right now?
Isn't that the strangest thing? It makes me want to look at more reincarnation stories, with this one obviously being a little boy who is speaking about being a World War II pilot.
Oh, this is going to open the door to a lot of comments.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that before.
No, that was crazy.
It's very well documented, though. Like, and so the point of this medical write-up is to try to debunk or prove that reincarnation is real, and why they talk a lot about the dad and what was documented was because they can prove that the parents did not know who any of these people or things were when the little boy started saying these things. Like, they had it so well documented with TV producers and interviews, website searches, that you can see the timeline of when they figured out more and more to the story after getting more quotes from their child. Like, they weren't feeding him this information.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm speechless.
That's rare.
I'm speechless.
We'll read more of this.
I'm
Let me keep going.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that story was one of the better ones that you've shared. That it's a real head scratcher.
Yeah, you guys should look it up. There's more to it. The case of James Leininger, an American case of the reincarnation type. And there's lots of news articles about it. Like, there's so much about it because it's so crazy. And it's not that long ago. This little boy was born in 1998. Like, this was not like back in the 60s or 50s when this was happening.
No. You know, I'm not a big fan of the spooky stuff. I only like watching horror movies. That gives me some icky ickies.
Yeah, I know. We haven't had that much spooky stuff happen to us flying, but we did have one night where
That's right.
Spooky. Do you remember that?
I do. One of the many flights that I would backseat my beautiful wife while she was learning how to fly.
That almost sounds wrong. Yes.
That almost sounds wrong.
Yeah. When I was getting my instrument rate, I was already a private pilot when we met. But when I was getting my instrument rating, we had started dating, and you just loved aviation once I kind of brought you into that world a bit more.
You brought me in because I had no idea what it was at all.
On the airplane side, you were an ATC major, but you didn't really have a passion for aviation yet. And then once you started flying with me and my instructor, shout out to my instructor, Ron. He was like my adopted dad and loved both of us. And he wanted you there too. He was like, yeah, make sure Kevin comes to our lesson tonight. And so we would fly at night all the time because it was in Florida. It was always much cooler at night. I was going to school full time. You were going to school full time. He was a professor. So like that was the only time we could really train often. Where were we coming back from? Gainesville or Ocala?
It was, I feel like we were
To
in the
Daytona
Palatka, MOA.
It was like
So like
northern
somewhere in there.
northern central Florida.
Let's say Gainesville. It was somewhere around there.
And we were flying, I didn't even know, was it maybe like midnight-ish?
It was late. Yeah.
It was pretty late, and we're flying, and it's pitch dark. It's so quiet. Another reason why I love to fly at night, especially for instrument, is anytime you requested you wanted a practice approach, you would get it, and the comms were so quiet. So we were flying, and all of a sudden, we started seeing these orange orbs appearing all around us.
Everywhere.
And they would just hang in the sky, not move, and then just disappear over and over. And there were so many of them.
And all three of us saw them It was 20, 30 minutes of this, though, that they would just hang there. Mm-hmm. And we were just staring at it for a long time. Like, what are we looking at?
We were getting so freaked out.
Because I remember we were fairly high. We were like 8,000 feet up.
I was about to say 8,000 too. We have incredible memories.
I know. And they were above us, below us. And it almost made, like, the way I can describe it is if you've ever seen like flares coming out of the back of a jet or a C-130 that's trying to avoid like being shot at, like that type of spread. But they never went away because we knew we were in like the restricted areas, like the MOAs where
not restricted areas.
Yeah, not restricted areas. we were on an IFR flight plan. So we were.
Oh, yes. That's a key point to this. We were on an IFR flight plan.
Yes. No, we were in the restricted area. I remember because it was cold. I do remember that.
We asked ATC because we were seeing stuff.
Because we were in the restricted area.
We said, what are we seeing? And I do remember that now. They said, no, it's cold, and just kind of like wrote us off. But do you remember when we landed and Ron figured it out?
What did he say? I can't remember.
He called flight service after we landed, and I don't know if they were just guessing or if it was confirmed, but they said there was a military firing range.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then we were still freaked out because there was some of them above us, below us, all around us, and we were on an IFR flight plan, so we were cleared into that airspace. It's not like we were just cowboying it.
Yeah,
and that was why we were still kind of like annoyed. Like, what do you mean? Like, because it was all right. It was very close to us.
Yeah, they were clearly shooting stuff consistently, and because it was at night, it was tricking our eyes. But it definitely appeared that they were orange orbs, like 15 of them circling us, but in reality, because of night disorientation,
maybe it was further than we thought.
It was because we were in the restricted area. I remember this clear as day because that's why felt wrong. Like the first reaction was like they're firing stuff and we're in this. Why are we in this airspace?
But then ATC said it was cold, and then we're like, oh shit, like we're about to get hit by aliens.
Yeah. And
I do remember we were all so quiet.
yeah, I also don't think flight service would know. I think they just told Ron what he wanted to hear.
I think that's how the story went, that it was flight service. I just remember him saying that he had talked to someone and found out that it was.
Oh, he was convinced. I remember as soon as we landed, he went right away and just
it was bothering him, like it was bothering us.
Or yeah, we saw orange orbs floating in the air.
That plane had never been so silent.
What kind of bombs don't descend?
That just reminded me, do you remember what he used to do to me in instrument training?
What?
That I would be so focused and everything would be so quiet and I'd be perfect. And then all of a sudden, like joining the localizer to get on glide slope, hand flying every single time, he would blast rock and roll music in my ears. Right. And I'd be like, what are you doing? He's like, you have to be able to focus even when there's distractions. I'm like, what?
He was so old school.
But it trained me to get so used to listening to music while flying that for a while after that, it was hard for me to lock in and get really focused without music. The dead of silence would then be more distracting to me than music on. But he would blare it too. Like level 10, he'd have his iPad. I'd always see him and he'd be bringing up rock and roll.
Get
and
distracted.
Then blare it the whole way.
Oh, he was great.
It was hilarious.
He was great.
So
he also didn't let you land on the 2.5 mile long runway. That always burned into my memory now. And like, I always tell my students, I wish that I was able to do that with you, because he would
explain what that means.
So he would make you fly that plane basically with the mains on the ground or in ground effect for 2.5 miles and not let the nose hit. And he'd be in there just right up against your ear.
Oh, he was barking,
screaming at you, don't let it hit, don't let it hit, keep it going, keep it. And I'm like, yeah.
He was like, sometimes he was like a military instructor.
Don't let it hit. Don't let it.
Now I'm looking back, that was a crazy experience. I was just a little
wheelie 2.5 miles down the road.
I was just a little girl.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm trying.
That is funny. I'm like remembering so much about how he trained me.
Don't you let this hit.
I would get in trouble if the wheels would hit, because he wanted me to figure out what it felt like to fly in ground effect and to have the softest landings. He was all about being a very polished pilot more than anything. Yes, sir. No, sir. When you're talking to ATC, making sure that you were timely and efficient with your run-ups, and getting off the ground quickly and safely, but not tooling around.
Timely and efficient.
He was very good at creating a professional pilot environment. But yeah, he was screaming at me down the runway the whole time. The runway at Daytona is huge, and we just fly 5 feet above it, and I wasn't allowed to let the wheels touch, and we do it over and over.
And this would be at night too.
And over again. But it worked. I think it worked.
You're still to this day the best person I've ever flown with that can land a freaking piston.
Cessna. Yeah. Well, if you guys have any other creepy, scary stories, we will take them any time of year, not even just Halloween. So head over to the website and submit it, and anything else that this might have jogged your memory of, because we want to hear it.
Thanks for joining our Halloween special and dealing with my cough.
Yes, we will see you guys next time.
See ya. Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.